What if one of literature's most beloved stories, the one you probably read in high school, was actually, at its heart, a stark, kind of unsettling true crime investigation, wrapped up, of course, in a coming-of-age tale?
That's exactly the angle we're taking today.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're opening up what we're calling Macomb's True Crime Files.
That's right. We're taking the classic novel To Kill a Mockingbird as our stack of source material. And our mission, really, for you listening, is to explore this iconic story through a modern lens.
Yeah, looking at it fresh.
Exactly. We'll be profiling characters like Atticus Finch, Scout, Jem, Tom Robinson, Boo Radley, but as if they were real people caught up in these events, examining their roles in Macomb's, let's call them, unwritten case files.
This definitely isn't your standard book report.
No, think of it more like an investigation. We're digging into those enduring themes, justice, morality, racism, empathy, and connecting them directly to the world we live in today. Expect some surprising insights and hopefully some thought-provoking analysis.
Okay, so let's start by setting the scene for this investigation. Macomb, Alabama. It's more than just a backdrop, isn't it? It feels like a character itself.
Oh, absolutely. The sources paint a vivid picture, an old town, a tired old town.
Right. Red slop streets when it rained, a sagging courthouse. You can almost feel the heat and the slow, almost suffocating pace of life.
It's described as a place where there was, and I quote, nothing to buy and no money to buy it with, nothing to see outside the boundaries. Really captures that sense of isolation.
So this tired old town, what does that really mean for the people living there? Beyond just being old and slow,
Yeah.
how does that weariness, that isolation shape them?
Well, think about it. A place that's economically depressed, kind of cut off. It often becomes stagnant, right? Almost self-contained. Limited outside influence means traditions and, yeah, unfortunately, ingrained prejudices, they become incredibly hard to dislodge. It's like this closed system that just keeps reinforcing its own norms, its own ways of seeing things, for better or often for worse.
And you see that mindset reflected in these tiny details the author gives us, like the men's stiff collars wilting by 9 in the morning from the sheer heat.
Yeah, or the ladies bathing multiple times a day, ending up like soft tea cakes with frostings of sweat and sweet talcum.
It paints such a picture. It's not just description. It speaks to a specific way of life dictated by the heat, the slowness, these rigid social rituals.
And it's even tied to the town's founding myth, right? This guy Sinkfield.
Oh, yeah, the story about him using shinny, that's bootleg liquor, basically to trick the surveyors.
Exactly, to place the county seat inconveniently, but making sure its existence was tied to government. It suggests a certain, maybe pragmatic but slightly skewed foundation from the very beginning.
These details really matter, don't they? If we zoom out a bit, it raises a bigger question for us today.
Which is?
How do our physical environments, especially maybe in more isolated communities, still influence social norms and the pace of change? Is that still a thing?
I think it absolutely is. Think about close-knit communities, rural or even urban ones. That sense of tradition of this is how we've always done it can be a powerful, almost unshakable force. It often dictates who fits in and who doesn't.
Okay, let's shift our focus now to the Finch family. They're sort of the moral center of this whole story, our main lens.
Right. The family history goes back quite a way. Simon Finch, coming down from Philadelphia, sets up Finch's Landing.
Builds wealth.
And owns slaves, even though he was apparently a devout Methodist, which is something. It is. It highlights the contradictions of the time. Simon found a way to justify owning human chattels, as the book calls them, to build his fortune. But then you have Atticus,
our central figure, and he represents a major break from that tradition, right? He leaves Finch's Landing, goes off to Montgomery to read law.
That departure is huge. It signals a generational shift. Atticus choosing law, choosing to engage with a system of justice beyond just the family's land and inherited wealth. It's significant.
And his early experiences practicing law back in Macomb, they're pretty stark.
Extremely stark. His first 2 clients were the last 2 persons hanged in the Macomb County Jail. Imagine starting your career like that.
Wow. No wonder the source says it left him with a profound distaste for the practice of criminal law.
A profound distaste. Think about what that must have taught him about Macomb's justice system right from the get-go.
It feels like it absolutely foreshadows the challenges he'll face later, doesn't it? Maybe it even cemented his resolve deep down.
It's compelling to think so. And consider this. He also funded his younger brother Jack's medical education in Boston. He wasn't trying to keep everyone tied to the old ways, to the land. He was investing in a different kind of future.
So maybe that later commitment to Tom Robinson, that unwavering stance, even when he knew he couldn't win in the traditional sense, maybe it's partly a response to those first deeply negative experiences.
It could very well be, like a moral imperative kicking in, a need to ensure a fairer fight, a truer justice than those first two clients probably ever got. Our past experiences, they really do shape our principles, don't they?
Okay, so we have the Finches representing a certain kind of established, evolving Maycomb. But then there's this other, much darker, more mysterious side, literally behind closed doors, the Radley place.
Ah, yes. Our first cold case file, you could say?
Exactly. The source describes it so vividly. A jutting house, once white, now drooped over the eaves, always in shadow, like it actively repelled the sun.
And inside, this unknown entity, Boo Radley, the local bogeyman.
Totally. The legends were wild. Radley pecans are poisonous. Hit a ball into their yard, forget it, it's gone forever.
It's a perfect example of how gossip and fear just snowball, right? How a community's collective imagination can literally create a monster out of a recluse.
As Stephanie Crawford, the neighborhood gossip, she feels it, telling the kids about Boo's supposed past, the gang he ran with.
Right, locking Mr. Connor in the outhouse, which, sounds like teenage shenanigans mostly.
But then it escalates. Mr. Radley keeping Arthur Boo out of the state industrial school by basically locking him up at home, and then the really chilling incident.
The scissors. Boo supposedly driving scissors into his father's leg, leading to him being locked in the courthouse basement for a while, then just permanently confined at home. Vanished.
It's a deeply disturbing story. And the real cold case here is, what really happened to Arthur Radley? Beyond Miss Stephanie's likely embellished tales.
And think about the context. The other boys in that so-called gang, they apparently went on to get the best secondary education to be had in the state.
While Boo was just erased, made into a ghost.
And there's that subtle but incredibly revealing detail you mentioned earlier about the sheriff.
Yeah, he hadn't the heart to put him in jail alongside Negras.
That speaks volumes, doesn't it? Even for someone perceived as a dangerous other like Boo, there's still this racial hierarchy at play. Being jailed with black people is seen as a worse fate, a deeper disgrace.
It's chilling. And it connects to what Atticus tells Jem later about there being other ways of making people into ghosts.
Exactly. Isolation, fear, judgment. They can be just as effective as prison bars, maybe more so. This whole Boo Radley mystery, it really sets the stage. It shows us how Maycomb and the kids, learning from the town, perceives anyone who's different, anyone on the margins. It's their first real lesson in hidden injustice.
So moving from those hidden shadows, let's look at Scout's early education. And, the lessons she learns outside the classroom, deep in Maycomb's social structure.
Her first day of school is a crash course, isn't it?
Totally. Miss Caroline Fisher, the young teacher from North Alabama, she just doesn't get Maycomb at all.
No clue. And it comes to a head with Walter Cunningham Jr.
Right. No lunch money, hookworms. And crucially, he's a Cunningham. This Caroline tries to give him money, doesn't understand why he won't take it.
And Scout does. She understands instinctively. This scene perfectly contrasts Miss Caroline's well-meaning but naive approach with Scout's ingrained knowledge of Maycomb's rigid social codes.
Atticus has to explain it later. The Cunninghams are poor farmers, hit hard by the Depression. They don't take charity, they can't repay. They pay their debts in kind stovewood, hickory nuts, whatever they have.
He calls them a set breed of men. Proud. Willing to go hungry to keep their land and their independence, their right to vote as they please. It's Scouts and our first real lesson in economic dignity, poverty, and class.
But Scout learns it the hard way first, doesn't she? When Walter comes for dinner and pours syrup all over his food.
And Scout completely freaks out, calls him out on it.
Yeah, and Calpurnia just lays into her in the kitchen, gives her that incredible line, "Yo folks might be better than the Cunninghams, but it don't count for nothing the way you're disgracing them."
Such a powerful moment. It's about basic respect, even if you don't understand someone's ways. Calpurnia is teaching her empathy right there.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How do subtle class differences, economic struggles still play out today? Do we sometimes judge people's coping mechanisms, their ways, without really getting their circumstances?
It's a constant challenge, that need for empathy. Not just in big ways, but in those small, everyday moments.
Okay, so the Cunninghams represent poverty with dignity. Then we encounter the Ewells.
Ah, the Ewells. A whole different category.
Atticus calls them the disgrace of Maycomb for 3 generations. That's quite a label.
It is. They don't work, honestly, live off relief checks. And they get special treatment in a weird way.
Yeah, they're allowed to hunt and trap out a season. Why? Because everyone knows Bob Ewell spends his relief money on green whiskey, and his kids often go hungry.
It's this bizarre kind of societal allowance. Burris Ewell showing up for the first day of school, covered in cooties, being rude, then leaving. It shows their complete disregard for any kind of social norm or structure.
But what's really striking is that society lets them disregard it.
Yeah.
This privilege they get, letting them break the law. It's because confronting them, holding them accountable would cause more vexation, more trouble for the town.
It's a selective application of the law, absolutely. Based on their social standing, their race. It's easier for the white community to just let the Ewells be the Ewells, contain the problem, rather than deal with the root causes or enforce rules equally.
It's a dangerous precedent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tolerating certain behaviors from this poor white family that would absolutely not fly if it were someone else. It hints at the deeper rot in Macomb's justice system.
Definitely. And the description of their home is so telling. Behind the town dump, patched together with scrap metal and tin cans. But with those brilliant red geraniums, Mayella tins and slop jars.
Those geraniums, they stick with you. They suggest something in Mayella, don't they? A tiny spark of wanting something better, something beautiful, amidst all that squalor and dysfunction. A hint of complexity.
It's a crucial detail. These early encounters with the Cunninghams and the Ewells, they lay all the groundwork. They show us the rigid hierarchy, the deep-seated prejudices, the economic struggles that define Macomb. It all builds towards understanding the dynamics of the Tom Robinson trial.
And navigating these complex social worlds alongside the Finch children is Calpurnia.
Yes, Calpurnia. Much more than just the family cook and housekeeper.
Scout initially sees her as a tyrannical presence, mostly because Cal is strict, but she's also a moral guide, a teacher. She taught Scout to write cursive, remember?
And she's the one who disciplines Scout so fiercely for shaming Walter Cunningham. She instills those core values.
But she also leads this modest double life, as the narrator calls it.
Right. At her own church, First Purchase African Emmy Church, she speaks differently, what the book terms nigger talk, and she defends this choice.
How does she put it? It's not necessary to tell all you know.
Exactly. It highlights the reality of code switching, the necessity of navigating different worlds with different expectations, especially for Black people in a segregated South. She's a bridge between these worlds for the children.
Her role is so complex. Stern mother figure, educator, cultural interpreter. She's teaching Jem and Scout empathy and respect in very direct ways. How to move through this flawed world with some measure of integrity.
And her choice to code switch, it tells us so much about identity and survival, doesn't it? It's a reality many people from marginalized communities still navigate today, adjusting language and behavior depending on the context.
Atticus clearly sees her immense value. When Aunt Alexandra wants to get rid of her, Atticus shuts that down immediately.
He defends her strongly, says she's been harder on the kids than a mother might have been, never let them get away with anything. And crucially, the children love her. He understands her vital role in their upbringing, their moral development.
Which leads us perfectly to Atticus's own core philosophy, the bedrock of his character.
That central piece of advice he gives Scout early on.
You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view.
Until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. It's more than just a saying for him. It's his guiding principle. It's the foundation of everything he does.
It's such a profoundly challenging idea, isn't it, to truly try and see the world through someone else's eyes.
And we see his character reflected in other ways, too, like the one-shot Finch incident.
Right. When he has to shoot the rabid dog, revealing this incredible marksmanship the kids had no idea about.
But he dislikes guns. He keeps that skill hidden because he feels it gives him an unfair advantage over other living things. That tells you so much about him.
He prefers a different kind of battle.
Exactly. He embodies this quiet, principled courage. His empathy isn't passive sympathy. It's an active, intellectual, moral process, standing for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it's unpopular. His humility about the shooting highlights his preference for moral and intellectual fights over physical ones.
It really makes you pause and think. How often do we genuinely try to climb into another's skin before we judge? What kind of courage do we value most today? Is it the loud, showy kind, or that quiet, steady, principled stand Atticus represents?
A question worth pondering.
Okay, so now we arrive at the core of our true crime investigation, the Tom Robinson trial, and what Atticus calls Macomb's usual disease.
This is where everything converges. Atticus is appointed by the court to defend Tom Robinson, a Black man accused by Mayella Ewell, a white woman, of rape.
And Atticus knows, right from the start, what he's up against. He tells his brother, Jack, point blank, that he can't win.
He knows the outcome is likely predetermined by prejudice. His main goal, he says, is to get Jem and Scout through it without bitterness, and most of all, without catching Makeham's usual disease.
That phrase, Makeham's usual disease,
Yeah,
it's chilling. He means racism, doesn't he? That pervasive, deep-seated prejudice.
absolutely. It's the infection that permeates the town. So Atticus takes the case, not expecting a legal victory, but out of a sense of duty, integrity, and crucially, to set an example for his children. It's a moral stand against the tide.
And the pressure starts immediately. Scout hears Cecil Jacobs yelling across the schoolyard, calling Atticus a nigger lover.
And Atticus's advice to her is so steady. From now on, it'll be everybody less one. He's preparing her.
And Scout makes that conscious choice not to fight Cecil. She thinks, somehow if I fought Cecil, I would let Atticus down. The weight on those kids.
It's immense. They're forced to confront raw hatred and injustice at such a young age. It makes you consider, what does it mean for a lawyer, for anyone, to take on a fight they know they'll likely lose? Sometimes the fight itself, the act of standing up, is the point. Like battles fought today for broader social change, not just individual wins.
To really grasp the divide in Maycomb, we need to look at the world Calpurnia takes the children into. First purchase African ME Church.
Yes, that visit is incredibly revealing. It's a completely different world from the white Maycomb they know.
They witness lining hymns. The preacher reads or chants a line. The congregation repeats it in song.
And this isn't just a stylistic choice. It stems directly from a history where literacy was denied to enslaved people and their descendants. It's a practice born of necessity and resilience.
The sense of community is palpable, but so are the struggles. They take up a special collection for Helen Robinson, Tom's wife.
Because she can't get work these days. The accusation against her husband has already made her an outcast, destroyed her ability to support her family. Even before the trial, the economic consequences are devastating.
It shows how systemic injustice ripples outwards, affecting whole families, whole communities.
And while there's a moment of tension, a woman named Lula challenges Calpurnia for bringing white children there. The overall community, led by Zebo, Calpurnia's son, welcomes them. We're mighty glad to have you all here.
It shows complexity within the Black community, too. Wariness, maybe, but also solidarity. It makes you reflect on how economic and social ostracization still impact families caught in the justice system today, especially in marginalized communities. The damage goes way beyond the courtroom.
Absolutely.
Then comes that incredibly tense night before the trial. The fragility of justice is laid bare.
Atticus, sitting outside the jail, reading, guarding Tom Robinson.
Because he knows trouble is coming. And it does. A mob arrives. Men from Old Sarum, described as being rougher, more rural, including Mr. Walter Cunningham Sr.
The father of the Boy Scout knows from school. They intend to lynch Tom. It's terrifying.
But Scout, Jim, and Dill have followed Atticus, worried about him. And Scout, seeing Mr. Cunningham, just starts talking to him. Completely innocent.
Yeah, she asks about his son, Walter Jr., remembers Atticus helping him with his entailment, those legal issues about his land. She just treats him like a neighbor.
And this simple, innocent act of personal connection completely diffuses the situation.
It does. It shatters the mob mentality. Atticus says later, a mob's always made up of people no matter what. Scout reminds Mr. Cunningham of his individuality, his humanity. She makes him, as Atticus puts it, stand in my shoes for a minute.
He gets embarrassed, tells the men to clear out. They just leave.
It's an astonishing moment. It shows the terrifying power of mob rule, but also the unexpected power of individual connection, even a child's innocence, to cut through that collective rage and prejudice. A fragile victory, but a victory nonetheless.
It really highlights the precariousness of justice when faced with that kind of hatred.
Then the trial itself begins, and the atmosphere is just bizarre.
Like a gala occasion for the white townspeople. Almost festive. A morbid curiosity.
While the Black community watches separately, silently, from the balcony, the segregation is stark, built right into the architecture of the court.
And amidst this, we meet Mr. Dolphus Raymond.
Dolphus, a fascinating character, a wealthy white man who openly prefers the company of Black people and has mixed-race children.
And he carries around a paper bag pretending to sip whiskey from it. But it's actually just Coca-Cola.
He explains to Scout and Dill that he does it because it helps folks if they can latch onto a reason. People can accept his unconventional lifestyle if they can write it off as alcoholism.
It's easier for them to believe he's flawed than to accept that he simply chooses a different way of life, defying their racial codes.
Exactly. It shows the immense pressure to conform. And the tragedy of his mixed-race children who, as Jem points out, don't belong anywhere, not fully accepted by white society or black society, victims of the rigid lines drawn by prejudice.
That inability of Maycomb to comprehend difference without assigning a negative reason, it's a powerful indictment of the town's limitations.
Now, the prosecution presents its case. It seems straightforward at first.
Sheriff Heck Tate testifies about Mayella's injuries. He's specific. Bruises primarily on the right side of her face, her right eye blackened, finger marks all around her throat.
Then Bob Ewell takes the stand. Crude, aggressive, full of racist accusations. He claims he saw Tom attacking Mayella through the window.
But Atticus, through his cross-examination, starts dismantling their story piece by piece. He focuses on the physical evidence, or lack thereof.
The key moment comes when he asks Bob Ewell to write his name, revealing Ewell is left-handed.
Connecting that to Mayella's injuries being mostly on her right side, suggesting her attacker was likely left-handed.
And then, the crucial reveal. Atticus asks Tom Robinson to stand up, and everyone sees it.
Tom's left arm is crippled, utterly useless, mangled in a cotton gin accident years ago, 12 inches shorter than his right.
Physically impossible for him to have inflicted those specific injuries on Mayella, especially the ones requiring two strong hands around her neck, or the blow to her right eye likely delivered by a left fist. The forensic evidence, the basic physical facts, scream innocence.
You should be over right there. Case closed.
In a just world, yes. But this is Maycomb, and the Ewells, despite being seen as white trash, still possess the power of their race in that courtroom. That privilege outweighs the facts.
It's infuriating to witness. The truth is right there, plain as day, but it's hitting this wall of prejudice.
And then Mayella herself testifies. She presents a conflicting image, fragile-looking but also thick-bodied, accustomed to hard labor.
She gives her version of events, claiming Tom attacked her when she asked him inside to break up a piece of furniture.
Got me around the neck cussing me and saying, "Dirt, I fought and hollered." Atticus's questioning is gentle at first, but relentless. He slowly exposes the inconsistencies in her story and, more importantly, the tragic reality of her life.
Her profound loneliness, her isolation, the hints of her father's abuse, though she vehemently denies he ever touched her.
He paints a picture of her desperate attempt to reach out for human connection, maybe even affection, towards Tom, who is always polite and helpful to her. A transgression of Maycomb's deepest taboo.
The breaking point comes when Atticus asks that devastating question. Who beat you up, Tom Robinson or your father?
She completely loses it, refuses to answer, lashes out at Atticus, calls the jury cowards if they don't convict Tom. It's raw fear and desperation.
She's a victim too, isn't she? Trapped by poverty, ignorance, her abusive father, and that suffocating, rigid and time-honored code of her society that Atticus talks about.
Absolutely. Her accusation against Tom, while a monstrous lie with fatal consequences, is also an act of self-preservation. She's deflecting guilt, avoiding her father's likely violent wrath, and tragically weaponizing the community's racism as her shield.
It makes you think about how cycles of abuse and societal pressure can push people into making horrific choices, and how easily prejudice can be exploited.
Finally, Tom Robinson takes the stand. He's described with dignity, a black velvet Negro. He speaks calmly, respectfully.
He explains he often helped Mayella with small chores, for free, because he felt sorry for her.
And that's the fatal mistake. His words, "I felt right sorry for her. She seemed to try more than the rest of them."
Why was that such a mistake? It sounds like simple compassion.
In Maycomb's twisted racial hierarchy, a black man feeling pity for a white woman, it's unthinkable. It reverses the assumed order. It implies he saw himself as being in a position to feel sorry for her, which was intolerable to the white jurors. It seals his fate more than any testimony.
Wow, so his kindness, his empathy is turned against him.
Precisely. Atticus, in his closing argument, hammers this home. He exposes the evil assumption underlying the whole case that all Negroes lie, that all Negroes are basically immoral beings, that all Negro men are not to be trusted around our women.
He appeals to the jury's reason, to their conscience. He points out the lack of medical evidence, the conflicting testimonies, Tom's obvious physical inability to commit the crime as described.
He famously says, "This case is as simple as black and white." And he practically begs the jury to look past their prejudice, to do their duty in the name of God, concluding, the defendant is not guilty, but somebody in this courtroom is.
A powerful, direct challenge.
Yeah.
But it's running headlong into that usual disease. His appeal to equality clashes so violently with the courtroom's reality.
And then, the wait for the verdict takes the jury A few hours, which significantly is longer than usual for a case involving a black defendant accused by a white person.
Atticus later explains why. There was one fellow who took considerable wearing down. In the beginning, he was raring for an outright acquittal.
And who is that juror?
One of the Cunninghams. Likely Walter Cunningham Sr., the man Scout spoke to at the jail.
Incredible. It shows that Scout's innocent intervention, that moment of human connection, actually had an impact. It planted a seed of doubt, made one man pause and consider the evidence, try to stand against the tide. A small crack in the wall.
But only a crack. The inevitable verdict comes back. Guilty.
Jem is devastated. His childhood innocence is shattered right there.
And as Atticus walks out, weary, defeated in the legal sense, something remarkable happens.
Everyone in the colored balcony, Reverend Sykes, Calpurnia, all the black citizens who watch the trial, they stand up, silently, as a mark of respect for him.
It's not a victory, but it's a profound acknowledgement, a different kind of verdict delivered by the community that truly understands the injustice.
It raises that crucial question again. What happens when the system designed for justice fails so utterly? What's the role of individual conscience, like that Cunningham juror, or the collective conscience, like the people in the balcony showing respect in the face of systemic injustice?
The aftermath of the trial hits Jem the hardest. He's truly disillusioned.
He uses that powerful metaphor. He felt like he was a caterpillar in a cocoon, thinking Maycomb folks were the best folks in the world. But the trial broke the cocoon, and now he sees they're safest folks, meaning safe for people like them, perhaps, but not for everyone.
His idealism is just crushed. He starts talking about the unfairness of it all, how it's always a white man's word against a black man's, and how the white man always wins in their courts. He even argues for jury reform, saying women should be allowed to serve.
He's starting to see the system, the structures behind the prejudice. He also pushes back against Aunt Alexandra's snobbery, her calling the Cunninghams trash, and forbidding Scout from playing with Walter Jr.
Jem counters with that simple, profound line. I think there's just one kind of folks.
It's his attempt to make sense of it all, to push past the arbitrary social divisions he's suddenly seeing so clearly. He's maturing rapidly, forced by the harsh realities he's witnessed.
It's that painful process of confronting injustice. It doesn't necessarily give him Maycomb's disease, as Atticus feared, but it forces him to see the world and his town with new, much more critical eyes.
A difficult but essential part of growing up in that environment.
Meanwhile, the hypocrisy of Maycomb's good society is put on full display.
Ah, yes. And Alexandra's missionary circle meeting.
They're discussing the supposed squalid lives of the Mrunas in Africa, expressing great pity and concern for people thousands of miles away.
But in the very next breath, they're making condescending, racist remarks about Maycomb's own black community, complaining about their servants being sulky after the trial.
And Mrs. Merriweather has that unbelievable line about forgiving and forgetting, saying, if we just let them know we forgive them, that we've forgotten it, then this whole thing will blow over.
The sheer blindness, the lack of self-awareness is staggering. Empathy for distant savages, but utter contempt and dismissal for their neighbors suffering right under their noses. It's a hypocrisy that still feels depressingly relevant today.
And then the ultimate tragedy strikes. News comes that Tom Robinson is dead.
Shot while trying to escape from Enfield Prison Farm. Not just shot, but shot 17 times.
17 bullet holes. An excessive, brutal amount of force.
Mr. Underwood, the newspaper editor, who initially seems quite racist himself, writes a scathing editorial. He compares Tom's death to the senseless slaughter of songbirds,
explicitly connecting Tom to the Mockingbird theme. An innocent creature destroyed for no reason. Underwood argues it was prejudice, plain and simple, that killed Tom, regardless of the due process he supposedly received.
It underscores the deep, inescapable injustice. Even within the system, there was no real hope for Tom. His death feels almost inevitable, a foregone conclusion in that society.
But the violence isn't over. Bob Ewell feels cheated. Tom is dead, but Ewell lost whatever shred of credibility he might have had. He's fired from a job for laziness.
And he blames Atticus for everything. He confronts Atticus, spits in his face, and vows revenge, muttering something like, 1 down and about 2 more to go.
Atticus tries to downplay it. He tells Jem and Scout he'd rather Ewell take his anger out on him than on Mayella or the other Ewell children. He thinks Ewell got it all out of his system.
Which turns out to be a tragically naive miscalculation of Ewell's bitterness and capacity for violence.
Yes. On Halloween night, as Jem and Scout are walking home in the dark after a school pageant.
Scout's in that ridiculous ham costume.
Which, incredibly, ends up saving her life. Bob Ewell attacks them. There's a struggle in the dark. Scout is pinned. Jem tries to fight back. His arm is badly broken, snapped at the elbow.
And then suddenly, someone else is there. Another man pulls Ewell off Scout. There's a brief struggle, and then silence. Ewell is dead.
And standing there under the streetlight, carrying Jem towards the house, is Arthur Boo Radley.
The ghost emerges. The recluse, the subject of all their fears and legends, steps out of the shadows and becomes their unlikely savior. He is the ultimate Mockingbird figure, the hidden innocent who acts decisively to protect the children.
It's a stunning climax. The town's bogeyman is revealed as a silent guardian.
This leads directly to the final act and a fascinating debate about the nature of justice itself.
Sheriff Heck Tate arrives at the Finch house. Dr. Reynolds is tending to Jem. Bob Ewell lies dead under the tree where he attacked the children.
Tate quickly assesses the situation. He sees the signs of a struggle, finds Ewell's kitchen knife. He understands what happened. Boo Radley killed Bob Ewell while defending Jem and Scout.
But Tate makes a decision, a crucial one. He tells Atticus his official report will say that Bob Ewell tripped and fell on his own knife.
Atticus initially objects fiercely. He thinks Jem must have killed Ewell in self-defense, and he insists on transparency, on the law taking its course. I can't live one way in town and another way in my home, he says.
But Tate pushes back hard. He knows it was Boo, and he argues passionately that dragging Boo Radley with his shy ways into the limelight, making him a hero, subjecting him to the town's attention and inquiries, that would be a sin.
He says explicitly, to my way of thinking, Mr. Finch, taking the one man who's done you and this town a great service and dragging him with his shy ways into the limelight, to me that's a sin. He equates it directly with killing a mockingbird.
It's a direct confrontation between Atticus's unwavering belief in legal truth and Tate's sense of moral justice, of protecting the vulnerable.
Tate insists, let the dead bury the dead this time, Mr. Finch. Let the dead bury the dead. He understands that true justice in this specific, messy situation means protecting the innocent survivor, Boo, even if it requires bending the official story.
Atticus finally understands. He asks Scout if she understands. And Scout, showing how much she's absorbed her father's lessons, simply says, well, it'd be sort of like shooting Mockingbird, wouldn't it?
And Atticus accepts Tate's version. It's a profound moment where the rigid ideal of law gives way to a deeper, more compassionate form of justice. What is true justice? Is it always the letter of the law, or is it sometimes about shielding the innocent, preserving peace, even through a necessary fiction?
It leaves you with a lot to think about regarding different kinds of righteousness.
And this understanding culminates in Scout's final interaction with Boo. After Tate and Atticus agree on the story, Scout walks Boo Radley home.
Just walks him home arm in arm, like any gentleman would do, she thinks. No fear anymore.
And she stands on his porch for a moment, looking out at her street, at her town from his perspective.
It's the ultimate climbing into his skin moment. She finally sees the world through Boo's eyes. She mentally replays key events of the past couple of years, but imagines them from his vantage point on that porch.
Winter, and a man walked into the street, dropped his glasses, and shot a dog. Summer, and he watched his children's heart break. Autumn again, and Boo's children needed him. She sees herself and Jem as his children in that moment.
She realizes Atticus was right all along. You never really know a man until you stand in his shoes and walk around in them. Just standing on the Radley porch was enough.
It's the completion of her journey into empathy. She understands his quiet acts of kindness, the little gifts left in the tree knot, the blanket placed around her shoulders during Miss Maudie's house fire, and now saving their lives. She also understands that their childhood games, their fear of him, were a form of unwitting cruelty.
That final reflection. We never put back into the tree what we took out of it.
Yeah.
We'd given him nothing. It's so poignant. Acknowledging their debt to him, his quiet generosity versus their childish intrusions.
It's a powerful challenge to all of us, isn't it? To look past our assumptions, our fears, especially regarding those who seem different or live on the margins. To truly try and understand their perspective, that's the heart of empathy.
So let's wrap up this deep dive. We've journeyed through Macomb, this fictional town that holds up a pretty stark mirror to some enduring, unsettling truths about justice, prejudice, and how we see each other.
We've analyzed Atticus Finch as this icon of moral courage, but also maybe someone who misjudged certain dangers. We saw Scout and Jem lose their innocence but gain a profound understanding of their world's complexities.
We witnessed Tom Robinson become a tragic victim of systemic racism, his life destroyed by lies and hate. And we saw Boo Radley, the Phantom, step into the light, as a silent protective force.
And the key takeaway is that these themes, racial injustice, the fight for equality, implicit bias, how narratives get shaped, the struggle for real justice in our courts and society, they aren't relics of the 1930s South. They are incredibly relevant right now.
That core idea, climbing into someone else's skin, it feels more radical and necessary than ever in our polarized world today. It takes real effort, intellectually and emotionally.
Definitely. We often crave justice that's neat, tidy, black and white, strictly by the book.
Yeah, we want clear winners and losers, clear right and wrong.
But Sheriff Hectate's decision at the end, it complicates that, doesn't it? It suggests that sometimes maybe true justice requires a different kind of moral calculation, a deviation, a difficult choice made to protect the truly vulnerable from more harm.
So here's the final thought we want to leave you with, the listener. Thinking about your own life, your own community, the wider world. What does it really mean to do your duty? To stand for what's right?
And crucially, what does it mean to protect a mockingbird? The innocent, the vulnerable, especially when the path isn't straightforward, when it might not be popular or perfectly legal. What truths are we willing to bend, or perhaps assert more forcefully, in the name of a greater, more compassionate good? What does justice truly demand of us?